Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach. Today we have with us Andrew Carrillo, who's the president and founder of Barnett Capital Advisors, and we'll be talking about Social Security claiming options. Andrew, welcome back to the program.
Thank you, Mike. Good to be here.
Yeah, so I think this is quite an interesting topic because Social Security has a lot of myths, misconceptions. You know, people think, oh, it's bankrupt. Oh, it's never going to pay out, or it's this or that or the other. So there's a lot of misconceptions. And then a lot of people don't really make the right choices soon enough so that you can plan ahead of that. So I'm excited to learn about some of your thoughts and strategies on that. So talk a little bit about what retirees can do to kind of avoid these mistakes in advance of retirement.
Yes, definitely. So I think one of the most important things is taking a look at Social Security as part of your entire retirement plan. So one of the most common things I see is that people will run some sort of, very linear calculator and says, if you retire at 67 or if you retire at 70, that's going to maximize your Social Security. But let's say in this example, you want to wait till you're 70, but if you retire at 62, then where are you going to get that cash from?
Yeah.
Right. So one of the things you want to understand is you want to maximize your entire wealth, not just Social Security, because if you wait till 70, it's going to maximize your Social Security. But one of the most important things is running a scenario where if you do retire at 62 and you take the Social Security earlier, how does that help your portfolio? Because you're not withdrawing so much from it.
Yeah.
Right. So if it's $20,000 a year in Social Security at 62, but then it's, $40,000, $38,000 at 70. Well, if you wait at $20,000 a year over 8 years, it's going to be a lot of money. It's going to be like $150,000 or so that you're going to have to pull from your portfolio. So the key is to look at that third dimension. And this is something that really, I'm surprised still nowadays, so many advisors, so many agents out there. I was interviewed in 2014. There's an article with me on the internet at Forbes talking about this. And they really, really liked it. But still, I run into people every day, every week that say, oh, I did this calculator. And then their mind is blown when they do the third dimension. And so I think one of the most important things is when you actually retire.
Yeah.
Because Social Security, it's not earning 8%. People say, oh, every year you wait, you earn 7 or 8%.
Right.
The way to look at it is every year you lose 100%, it increases 7 to 8%.
That's an
right?
interesting
and so,
perspective.
But if you,
yeah.
So and the key is but the way to look, if even like a scenario from 62 to 66 is a more common. Oh, I retire at 62. Okay, I'm going to wait till 66 because that's full retirement age. I mean, if you don't need the funds, if you don't need to take money from your portfolio, then maybe you wait till 66. But let's say in the scenario where you do, that's $100 in a $20,000 Social Security scenario a year. If you wait till 66, that's $100K you're going to pull from your portfolio, at least more than you would have if you took it. And so what opportunity cost does that $100K have? What will that $100K grow to in the next 15 years? That needs to be looked at with the other linear Social Security, not just in a straight line like, oh, I'm going to wait till 66, because you are pulling $100K more out of your portfolio in the first few years. And so that $100K could easily be $200K, $300K, $400K in 10 or 15 years. So
yeah, that's a really super point.
And
I think people don't think about it. They hear that 8% and it's like, okay, if I delay, it's going to give me 8% a year more. So that's wonderful. But if you don't have the means to live between one age and the next age when you're actually going to delay the benefits, well, how are you going to pay your bills or eat or travel, do what you need to do? Well, like you said, pulling it from the portfolio, well, it's got a whole lot more ramifications than just, oh yeah, give me a distribution, because if you left it in there, what is the return you've been getting on average, and then compounding. So that's a thing that people don't think about. And then maybe from the uneducated perspective, someone would think, oh, well, I'm going to leave my portfolio alone. I'm going to get one of those reverse mortgages. Well, now you've got another set of calculations to consider. Not that it's the right thing or the wrong thing, but it's another set of calculations to consider. Is that a good thing? Is that going to eat into this? Is it going to cost that? So delaying, yes, there's that 8% thing, but what are you going to be doing while you delay? And then if you claim now because it's like, okay, well, I need it. Yeah, but boy, if we had talked to you a year or two ago, we could have moved this and done that and maybe opened up some options to allow you to comfortably delay. And that, I think, leads us into what's the good runway ahead of making Social Security claiming decisions that you would recommend a client come to you and go, okay, I am X age and I need to start thinking about Social Security so that I'm prepared.
Yeah, I think one of the most important things is understanding your expenses.
Yeah.
That's something that the client can control, and they can come to me with a good understanding of what are their retirement expenses, what's their lifestyle. Because if someone comes in, I'm not even sure what I spent, it's really an open jar and you're not sure. And then really when you want to retire, and that way we can understand, run some numbers and run some different scenarios. And that's what I recommend everyone do is, run a scenario taking it earlier. And you're still going to have to likely pull something from your portfolio. Odds are you're not just going to live off Social Security. But if you are taking it a little earlier, you'll notice you're going to be pulling a lot less, keeping that withdrawal rate under 5%. Versus if you do take Social Security later, the numbers might show, whoa, you're pulling out 8 or 9% of your portfolio every year just for, to delay this. And then does that add value to your overall wealth? And what scenario, has a higher, can you live a better lifestyle? Can you have more wealth to pass on? And that's ultimately, it is outcome-based planning. You're going to decide what outcome you want based on what the numbers say, not just based on, what someone told you at some seminar or what you heard or what just makes sense on the initial impression.
It reminds me of what they say about going shopping for your weekly groceries. Don't go when you're super hungry because you're just going to be buying everything in sight and it might not be the best choices. So, make a rational decision. So with these kind of claiming decisions, don't make Social Security claiming decisions at the last minute. I've got to make the decision by whatever. Let's just do this. Go. You have a nice calm planning conversation with someone like yourself well ahead of time so that you can do the if this, then that. If I do it this way, then here's what would happen. So do I like that result? Okay, now that's scenario one. Well, if I do it this way, here's then that what would be happening. And then do I like this result? So those are the kind of things that people need to just remember, because that third level is huge, that third aspect of the opportunity cost. One of the things that I think a lot of people get confused on too is who should claim first, the one spouse or the other, or I'm divorced and my ex is we've been divorced for 5 or 6 years, so I can't get any of their benefits, but can you? So how does that play into the equation?
Yeah, and sometimes what happens is people, one person might retire earlier than the other person. They're at different ages, slightly different parts in their career. One person might like working a little bit, one person hates it. And so I've seen that a lot, and it typically makes sense for the person who retires to take it because, any sort of penalty will only be assessed, even if you do joint filing, it'll only be assessed on that person's income. And so I think that can definitely be a factor. People don't have to retire at the exact same time. So I do think, and yeah, typically if you're married for a certain period of time, there's potential, for getting benefits. If their benefit is large, it can make a lot of sense and your benefit is small. And there's also still spousal benefits where, you're entitled to 50% of your spouse's benefit. And sometimes, or your benefit, whatever's larger, of course, is what you're going to take. But sometimes 50%, if you don't have that strong of a working history and your spouse does, 50% might be a little bit larger than your own. So that's good to know as well. And that doesn't take away from their benefit.
One of the things to also throw into this mix with the planning and what ifs is our lifespans over the last few decades have been increasing. Back in the day, it was said, oh, we'll be living to X age, maybe 75 or 70 or whatever the age might be. So plan for this in retirement. These days, the retirement calculators are pushing it out further because we're taking better care of yourself, eating better, exercising. So you have to make sure your retirement funds are going to last that much longer, which ties into what you were saying before. And then isn't it true that women typically statistically are living longer than men? So now you talk about spousal benefits and who claims first and last, and all those things tie together. Not that there's a formula for, we always do it this way, but those are two factors that have to be considered.
Yeah, everything needs to be taken into account. And that's why I do think one of the most important areas is when you retire. That's around the time odds are that you should take it, and that's typically what the numbers say. But I do think it's important for everyone to look at the numbers, because sometimes you don't believe numbers until you see them.
Yeah.
And I've just run these numbers so many times and different scenarios, and I can't count 99% chance it surprises someone when they see these numbers, just because these type of it's very complex to think. They're using actuary tables. The money's not earning anything. These are transfer payments, right? So there's no trust fund. The money comes in, money goes out. But what they're doing is they're actuaries, like life insurance actuaries, and they're saying, hey, every year you get older, we'll give you a little more. So every year you lose 100%, we'll give you more in the years you actually do take. But because of that, it's not a real portfolio. It's not really earning anything, but your portfolio is, right? So if you do want to take from your real portfolio that is earning cash for a future promise, not to say you don't have that future promise anyways, you have to run those scenarios side by side, but keep all other assumptions the same. And then the results will come out, and you'll be able to see the truth of where you want to be.
And all of these choices, and there's probably several more that you would walk a client through. I think that I've heard, a lot of times in life, it's like, I'll just do this today. And then if I need to change my mind, I'll just, click this next box and update, and, we'll just change it, like your website. This is old information. So I just changed it here, hit save, refresh. Now it's changed. With Social Security claiming, you can't just pop in, out, and the other. You've got to make your choice, because in most cases, it's irrevocable what you choose up front, right?
Yeah, no, you can, if you do start working again, and after you've taken it, obviously, if you start working again and you're just getting penalized, you can stop benefits. But, typically people, but obviously waiting for those benefits is irrevocable, because every year you've turned it down.
Yeah.
And something interesting is this year we're expected to get Social Security payments are expected to get a big cost of living adjustment over 6 to 8%. And so typically the big holdup is, hey, I want to get 8%. I'm not going to have my cake now because I want to have my cake tomorrow, my Social Security tomorrow, because it's going to increase 8%. Well, people who took Social Security last year, or who've been taking, not only did they get it, but they're getting the 8% increase as well.
Yeah.
So that's something to factor in. Is not once you're getting Social Security, it still goes up. Now, typically it's by the cost of living adjustment, which historically has been only 2 or 3%. But that's something to keep in mind and factor that into your assumptions as well, is that you still are getting increases, but it's just less money you have to pull from your own investments, and your own investments you control versus, if you do drain your own investments for the future promise, we know the Social Security, it's not in the best shape. But I feel like a lot of baby boomers are a little bit immune because they've been hearing their whole life. They're a little desensitized to that. I've heard my whole life it's going to go broke.
Yeah.
But it's always been around this time, right? It's always been 2030. Now, and we're not that far away. I'm not saying they're not going to pay it. I do think they will print the money to do it. That's a whole other thing for inflation. But odds are they'll honor it. But you have to factor in how much trust you want to put in there, and I think that all needs to be taken into account.
Yep. Which ties into like, all the things I read online, Google tells me, about Social Security is going to go bankrupt, or Social Security is, or all of these questions that we've been talking about. When should I claim? I would wonder if you get clients that come to you and go, well, I heard online or read this, and it's like, okay, Google is great for some basic information, but boy, don't make your Social Security claiming options based on something that you heard or saw on Google, because they don't know your situation.
Yeah, and that's really sums up what I'm telling you here today. Is most Social Security strategies, the analysis, and even from advisors and online, they assume that's all you have.
Yeah.
And your Social Security is the only thing you have, and that your goal is to not maximize. They don't know, they just say how do you maximize Social Security? And obviously, if you just look at it like that, okay, maximize my Social Security, then yeah, it's going to tell you wait till 70 and then live till 100. Obviously, you can't control when you live till,
yeah.
but right. So there's, but what about your other investments? How does the different ages you take Social Security affect how your other investments grow? Because it does affect it. If you're living off $60,000 a year, and Social Security is $30,000. Okay, well, if you don't take Social Security and you're retired, you're going to have to pull $60,000 from your portfolio. Versus you only have to pull $30,000 from your portfolio if you take Social Security earlier. So it does affect, and those type of scenarios definitely need to be analyzed. And that's something I don't see anyone but me talking about. It's very strange. I've never seen anyone actually talk about that except myself. And there's nothing on the internet. There is an article from me on the internet from 2014, as I was mentioning, but besides that, I really just think it's good for everyone to take a look at your overall plan, not just what Google says or what you heard
or even what the Social Security Administration, you might drive over to the local office and ask some questions, and they will answer questions for you, but they can't give you advice or strategy. So it's just like fill in the blank, they'll answer you, oh, well, if you claim it this, then you'll get that. So it's really, people might feel like, oh, I'll go trust them because they're Social Security, but they're not going to think outside the box in a good way creatively to look at what you just described, which is like that holistic. And that's the benefit of working with someone who is a specialist in Social Security claiming, like what you're talking about, rather than just someone who's like, oh yeah, I do investments and I do insurance, but they dabble. They're not really a specialist, and they don't really look at everything deeply like what you're doing.
Exactly. Yeah, and I the Social Security Administration, they're going to be the best for certain things, like telling you exactly how much each payment is on what days, and they can be really good telling you about, if you're entitled to any benefits for someone you were divorced or something like that. Special situations, they're going to be very good at just telling you the numbers, but then we can use those numbers to run scenarios with what they told us, and then see how you want to go forward with your situation. So
100%.
Right.
Well, I think we've covered so many things that are helpful, little nuggets of knowledge, but also some things that should make a listener think, you know what, I really need to get with someone that can look at my whole picture, not just give me a myopic answer of, oh, claim here so that you can get this. So if someone was interested in getting maybe that second opinion or that bird's eye view, what's the best way they can learn more and then reach out to you, Andrew?
You can go to our website, BarnettCapitalAdvisors.com. You can contact me through the contact form there, or give me a call here at 305-328-8538.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for coming on. It's a real pleasure having you back on.
Oh, thank you, Mike. Good to be here.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneursradio.com.